Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Clipboard Confessional with Bobby and Anthony. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Aniano, and joining me today, as he has all summer long, my colleague, good friend, co-host, Mr. Bobby Wah. Bobby, how are we on our first show in August? Summer coming to an end, school year starting bad, football year starting good. It's a mixed bag of emotions here in the Clipboard Confessional studio. How you doing today, bud?
Well, I was doing great until you decided to bring negativity into this conversation. We are both teachers, so our summer is winding down. I have
When do you go
10
back?
days, 10 days left. Teachers report Friday the 15th.
Oh,
I know. And then I have a whole week after that of just teacher work days, so that'll be fun. I know. I know. And the kids' first day isn't until August 25th. I know.
now, ladies and gentlemen, let me take a moment. How long have you been teaching now, Bob?
Uh, Gosh, man, I know more negativity. This is year 16 or 17.
All right, this will be year 31 for this old fart, and whether it's 16 years or 31 years, there is nothing worse than staff development days.
Now, I don't know
When
how
they
much
roll out, when they roll out the poster board and markers and tell you to go sit in a group,
I don't know how
it's the worst.
much of the we usually have 2 days, I think, of those. And then as a PE teacher, I'd like to consider myself pretty creative, pretty like I don't do the same units all the time. Every year I'm doing different units. Some stay, some go, some, whatever. I'm always coming up with new stuff. But at the same time, I don't have a lot of classroom setup. Hang some posters up on the wall, let's get rolling.
Inflate
So
the basketballs and you'll get to go.
it's boring, man. It's a struggle. Also, normally when we do our podcast, the wife is at work and the little man is at daycare. Well, my 18-month-old is not at daycare today. So if you hear any blood-curdling screams in the background, it's probably okay. He has been really flexing his vocal cords lately.
There you go.
So don't be too alarmed.
Couple of years, we'll be a three-man show. That's what he's doing.
There you
He's getting
go.
ready.
There you
He's
go.
getting ready. So yeah, uh, I have a little more time off than you do here up in the New York area. A couple of boring days of PDs, and then we're off and running. But that's what he said. Once we're back to work, it's basically NFL cookoff time. So
Right.
um, we're good. Let me ask you a question. I know, and today's topic, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, is not the woes of the teacher life. The today's topic, we're going to talk Dynasty League football, uh, rookie draft, startup. Bob and I we're in a draft that in a league that I'm the commissioner of that we had to reboot, and we'll explain the format of that in a little bit. But before we get to that, I just have a question because we had a football game the other night, right? The Hall of Fame game, and this upcoming week we'll have a full slate of preseason games. Just real quick, how much stock do you take in preseason football games? Do you fall for the guy that goes off in the preseason and suddenly he's rising in your draft boards? Do you fall for that hype? Do you take that bait, or are you a little more reserved with what you see in NFL preseason football? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. What I do want to see, because the matchups are all different too. Some teams will play their starter, some teams won't. So if I get Trey Lance out there looking good against a third string defense, I mean, I don't. He should look good against a third string defense. He's a
Yeah,
third string quarterback. Now, if I see one of these late round running backs come in and really dominate, maybe they could push for a backup role. So maybe there'll be, an RB5 I might look at towards the end of my draft. Maybe a wide receiver that's putting up some yards and some touchdowns against, lower level defensive guys. But, it's like a small college. A guy goes to a small college, they dominate their level. That's what you want to see. So if there's somebody out there really dominating the second string, third string defenses, maybe I'll put them on my radar as a last pick or two of my draft, but that's about it.
yeah, fair enough. I'm kind of with you. I watch it for, hey, so there's football on the field. but I'm not looking at it and moving draft picks around and things like that. All right. So let's get into some dynasty talk here.
Now, real quick,
Bob and I,
real quick. Uh,
yeah,
I feel like before I got into Dynasty, when I heard shows like, oh, it's Dynasty week or we're going to talk Dynasty, I kind of tuned out or tuned off. Don't do that because there's a lot of crossover between Dynasty and redraft. It's not completely different. So I do want to
fair.
throw that out there. If you don't play Dynasty, first off, you should. It's awesome. I love it.
It's the best format. Yeah.
Yeah, but stick around and listen because even if you just do redraft, there are a lot of crossovers into the redraft world.
Yeah, and then there's the difference between like there's the full redraft, right? And then there's the keeper
Hmm.
format. And I'm in those with the local ones where you could keep two players. Like I'm in two of them actually, where it's keep any two players you drafted from round 8 or later, and they count for that draft spot, and you could keep them for 2 years, right? Like a lot of people do those. Oh, I drafted so and so in the ninth round. I'm going to keep him as my ninth round pick again, and after 2 years, you can't keep him anymore. All different formations of that. And then there's the dynasty where your team is your team and you have them for as long as you have them. And every year, then the draft is usually just for the incoming rookies. So the heavy load is year one when you start it, right? That's the draft of the entire player pool of the league. And then you draft your team. And then every year it's usually 4, maybe 5 rounds, and it's a rookie only format draft. And then you go about your season trades. You could trade draft picks. That's the fun part of the dynasty is the moving of draft picks when you're going for a championship, when you're looking maybe to rebuild and all of that. Now, the league we're going to be referencing today is the SiriusXM Fantasy Sports, SiriusXM IDP, individual defense. We won't get into the IDP format of that. We'll stick maybe to the offensive side of things. I joined that league. It was the first industry league I was ever in, probably over 10 years ago. I joined it, brought Bob in a couple of years back. And then somehow along the way, I ended up being the commissioner of it, which is a whole other story.
What a mess.
At one point, it was two 16-team divisions who held separate drafts. And then those two teams, the champion of each would meet in the finals. We've downsized to two 12-team divisions. Playoff format's still the same. 2 separate drafts. So in theory, both divisions have the same player pool. Champions meet in the middle at the final week. Yeah, that's fun being commissioner of that. That's how many emails did I have to send in the spring, Bob? 8,000?
Gosh, that's probably I'll take the over on that. And think
I
about
was
it.
getting sympathy texts from you. I was getting sick.
I
You're
know
like, dude, I am so sorry.
it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was the other folks. But yeah, think about this, man. 16 teams, and you can have up to 50 players per team. You were
Yeah,
at the depths of the depth charts on these with these
yeah,
NFL squads. It's a lot of fun.
yeah. Quarterback, every offensive position, every defensive position. Um, so yeah, so long story, we rebooted the league, we downsized it, so it works out perfect for the show because we had to redraft. We had to start from scratch, redraft the entire thing. Now, um, let's have a little fun with this. 12 teams.
Mhm.
I'm looking at a draft board here. And if you listen to the station, if you follow websites, there's some names here you may recognize here. Nonetheless, in a dynasty format, here were your top, we'll say top 5 for now. Your pick was not in there. You drafted at 11.
Yep.
Jamar Chase, Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson. I had the 4th pick. I started with Ashton Genty and Saquon at number 5.
Mhm.
I'm a little surprised. I have no issue with any of it. Okay. I am surprised Saquon number 5 in a dynasty. If you want to do a redraft, I'm fine with Saquon at 5. I think Saquon at 5 is value. Bob and I, we've talked about Saquon. We don't love him at number 1, the workload and all of that, right? All the reasons you could come up with for not wanting him. But in a dynasty format, picking Saquon Barkley at number 5 only wins, only hits if you win year one. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I'm sitting there when that happened, I thought, wow, Malik Neighbors went right after him, which I would have preferred Neighbors over Barkley. A couple picks later, CeeDee Lamb, then Bajan, then Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs almost made it to me at 11, which I mean, in a dynasty startup, I would have been very excited for. So
Well,
yeah,
you took
I think
Bowers out of left.
I did. Yeah. So Brock Bowers for me, tight end position is tough. And yes, it gives you a positional advantage. We talked about that last week on our show with drafting one of the top three tight ends. And I'm in on that a little bit for redraft. I'm not going to reach. However, if I can get a positional advantage for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that's different for me. So redraft, I wouldn't dream of taking Bowers at 11. But if I can get a positional advantage for years and years down the road, that's something I'm willing to do.
Are you surprised Genty lasted to me at 4?
Um, no, I'm surprised Josh Allen went at 2. I tell you that.
Right. So
Um,
it's a one QB format. It's not
right,
a super flex.
right. I'm No, I'm not surprised. I think that's a good spot for Genty, 4, 5, somewhere around in there. But like I said, I might, if it's me, because receivers, their careers, they last longer than running backs. I
Yeah.
mean, that's obvious, right? Your fall off your cliff for wide receivers really isn't until about 31 years old. So when you look and you got, neighbors out there and CD Lamb, I probably would have had them above Genty. However, running back is also a tough position to hold down in Dynasty. And all signs point to Genty being good for several years. So you do
Okay.
solidify a position there that's kind of tough to get from year to year in Dynasty.
Now, what's interesting, just looking at the board, and we'll have some fun and we'll throw some ideas around here. Whereas other people took quarterbacks, by the end of the fourth round, 6 quarterbacks were drafted.
Mhm.
Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson in round 2, Burrow and Jalen Hurts in round 3, and Patrick Mahomes in round 4. Bo Nix went in round 6. You, I thought I waited. You waited. I went into it in the dynasty rebuild saying I want a young QB and then I want a veteran. And it's exactly what I got. In round 13, I got Drake May as QB 11. And in case the development isn't, if in case he's not a week in and week starter this year, 2 rounds later, I took Jared Goff. Felt good about that. And then I took the real flyer. I took 2 flyers late, Jackson Dart and Jalen Milrow. And I do think Jalen Milrow a year from now is a starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think it's Sam Darnold. Um, you waited even longer. Round 15, Dak Prescott, and round 22, Matthew Stafford, who right now we're dealing with some back issues. You took Joe Milton, who I actually love. I can't believe Dallas got him from New England for like
Agreed.
a bag of balls. I mean, that was crazy that they were able to get him. So you went 2 veterans. Is this a mindset where you said, all right, I'm going to take the 2 veterans. I got the young guy in case something happens in Dallas. I slide Milton in for Dak. And are you of the mindset like they'll be fine this year and I'll worry about drafting a young quarterback next year?
Yes, that's exactly what I thought. And I'm not even worried about next year. Dak's got a few years left in him, I believe. I don't think Dallas, they're going to get rid of Dak, but I don't think so. I think he's going to be locked and loaded there. He's matched up with CeeDee Lamb for a few years. And when Dak stays healthy, we see he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback whenever he can stay on the field. Obviously, you're not sure about that. So I throw Stafford on there. And these picks how I attack the quarterback position, and it's tough if you're in a dynasty startup and don't know the people you're drafting with. This can
Yeah.
be difficult. However, we've been in this league for a few years, and even though it's a reboot, it's basically the same people. So I know how the draft's going to go. I know how these folks draft. And quarterback in the rookie draft, when we do that, is not valued as much as other positions. I think I got CJ Stroud at like pick 11 or something one year, whenever he was coming out. So I know that I can be a good team. I can win now. I can draft later in the first round, but I can still get my quarterback of the future. So going young at QB right now is not something I'm worried about, knowing how my league mates draft and knowing that I can attack that position in future years.
So if you're forget about our draft, what is the position? So you're more interested. I'm just trying to think of everything you said. You like the longevity of the wide receiver,
Hmm?
quarterback a little devalued. You like running back, but it's a shorter lifespan in a dynasty. So does that lead me to believe that maybe not in this, and I'm going to have to bring my dog in and throw it on behind me here as it's barking in the background. She knows I'm in here. Um, if let's call it 9 out of 10 dynasty redrafts, are you building around the wide receiver position?
It's going to depend how the draft falls and where I am. I don't necessarily have to do that. I did not do it in this league at all. I also know that running backs, and this is probably the case for most dynasty leagues, running backs are going to really um, take precedent in your rookie drafts. And when I build a team, I want to make sure I'm winning now, and later. So with the wide receivers, I want to get some, and basically all the positions. I don't necessarily want to attack rookies in a startup. I want to take guys that have a year or two under their belts that we've seen produce. If I can, that's ideal.
Right.
And I also know that in that first round, just like quarterbacks, now you're going to have a few wide receivers go really early. Your Malik Neighbors from last year, but I'd be interested. We have to look back. Where did Brian Thomas Jr. go in our draft? I bet that's a second half of the first round kind of guy. And so you can still find wide receiver talent because wide receiver is such a deep position in the
12,
real
right after you. Last
boom.
pick, first round.
There you go. So wide receiver is so deep in the real NFL draft that you can find your diamonds in the rough. Um, late in the first, your second round of rookie drafts, third, we're getting, let's not put too much, emphasis on that. But you can get wide receiver rookie talent a little later on in your drafts and build from there.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Like when I look at that first round, although that wide receiver position, AJ Brown round two, Puka Nakua round two, Jackson Smith Najigba, Nico Collins, Lad McConkey. I took Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. going in round three. Right? Like that in a dynasty, going to what you said, that second year wide receiver. And I think sometimes people make that mistake is, you know, they, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me, they're so concerned about building long term that they forget you also want to try to win year one.
I'm glad you brought that up because there are two teams in our league that drafted 14 rookies. Now I know we have deep rosters. 14 rookies, two separate teams. I think you have six. I only drafted two rookies. I drafted Jack
Yeah.
Sawyer, the defensive end at Ohio State for Pittsburgh, and I drafted Jalen Knoll, wide receiver for the Texans, who I absolutely love. I think he is Tank Dell, but they are not. That's a lot of dart throws. Rookies, no matter who, is a dart throw. They did
Yeah.
not build
Well,
to
I took
win.
Quinshon Junkins in round six.
Right,
So like, I don't even know what I'm getting out of him. The only saving grace is I also took Dylan Sampson, the other running back the Browns took, the other rookie. So his role may be elevated a little bit because
right.
Junkins, isn't even in camp. So yeah, I mean that's also the downside of drafting in April, but that's a whole other story.
Jaden Blue, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Woody Marks, Brashard Smith, Pat Bryant, Ty Felton, Torrey Horton, Isaac Tislov. This is one team drafting all of these rookies. And for me, I, I want to win that. I don't want to wait. I want to fight for the title this year and next, which is why I built my team the way that I did. I took Kenneth Walker, younger, um, running back that we know is talented, and I snagged Zach Charbonnet because you got to lock down that backfield.
Yeah.
I got Chase Brown, 2 years under his belt, right? Young guy, we know what we have in him. You sprinkle in some veterans. I got David Montgomery, for a third starter if I need it. Threw Marshawn Lloyd on there in case, um, what's his name, Josh Jacobs, gets hurt. I got
Hmm.
Tyler Algier. I didn't even want Tyler Algier, but I could only let him fall so far. But do you, because we mentioned this, you mentioned that you handcuffed Quinshon Judkins with Dylan Sampson. I did the same thing with Kenneth Walker. Does your view of handcuffing, is it different in a redraft and a dynasty, or do you kind of attack it the same way?
It wasn't. I didn't draft Dylan Sampson necessarily to handcuff Quinshon Junkins because I do think they're different players. This is a full PPR format, and when the lineup setting is a little different because we use myfantasyleague.com. It's not your traditional one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers. There's a window, a bracket. You could use, I think it said 1 to 3 running backs, right? 2 to 5 wide receivers. So drafting somebody like Dylan Sampson, and I know with no intention of maybe having him play, we also have a taxi squad, a rookie only taxi squad you could put rookies on. My original plan was Dylan Sampson was probably going to sit on my taxi squad all year, wasn't going to count as a roster spot. And in the future, if he turns into that pass catching outside threat that people think he can be, then maybe he's not a week in and week out starter. He's now a useful PPR player, bye week, that type of thing. I think his value now has gone up. I took Dylan Sampson. You talk about a deep league. I took Dylan Sampson. I can't even find it. He went so late for me. Round 29 as running back 64. So at that point, why not? Now, it just happened to be on, and I'm not going to sit here and say I foresaw things. Happened to work out for me, fortunately, in some ways, because of Quinshon Junkins being a terrible human being off the field. But so let me ask you this question though. Like let's talk about what we were saying now with the win now. So here was what I always find interesting. Right, everybody wants the younger players. Now we're going to talk, just reference it as running backs. I took Genti as the first running back. I was surprised Barkley went second in a dynasty. But again, win now, you have Barkley, so it makes sense. Then it was Bijan, the third running back, who went at pick 9. Gibbs at pick 10. Those were the 4 running backs who went in the first round. Then in round 2, you had Jonathan Taylor and Achane. Round 3, in order, Breece Hall, Bucky Irving, Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey went running back 9. And then Omari and Hampton, running back 10. It's nice value for Omari and Hampton in a dynasty league, by the way. Kyren Williams, James Cook, RB12. Henderson, the rookie, RB13 now in round 5. Josh Jacobs, to me, running back 14 in round 5. Running back 15. In hindsight, very late, even in a dynasty, in my opinion. Derrick Henry. Now, I have said this about Derrick Henry over and over again. The fantasy community has at times said Derrick Henry is too old. Derrick Henry eventually is going to get hurt.
Not at times, all
Derrick
times.
Henry doesn't get hurt. Derrick Henry hurts people. Derrick Henry will tell us when Derrick Henry is too old. Round 5, RB15. Is that even too late in a dynasty format for Derrick Henry?
Yeah, it is. It is. You said at times the fantasy community has said, that he's old and it's going to fall. He's going to fall off a cliff. I tried to interrupt you and say not at times, all the times, all of the times.
He doesn't catch enough passes. That's also been a
Doesn't matter.
complaint. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to get 1,900 rushing yards, like 20 total touchdowns. But you're right. He
3 dead
catches
bodies.
20 passes a year. You're right. We should probably just skip him and his 400 fantasy points. It's crazy to me. I'm surprised. So the reason I let him fall that far, not the reason, but one of the reasons is again, knowing how not just knowing how your league drafts, but knowing your league settings. So this league, we have 11 defensive starters, only 9 offensive starters. So this league is built around the
Yeah.
IDP position, which I noticed during this draft. Sometimes it felt like I might be the only one that knows it. These dudes were loading up on offensive players, which is great. You do you. But that's going to let guys, you are not one of them. You and I, players who maybe have a better understanding of how this league runs, to scoop up some really top shelf talent on the IDP side.
Yeah.
So
Well,
this is
you
a
took
perfect,
Michael Parsons in the third round.
exactly. I
Yeah,
have,
and I took Myles Garrett in the fourth.
right.
Now, granted,
Yeah.
that being said, you got to hope Michael Parsons gets on the field soon, but that's a whole other story.
Gosh, I mean, it was great until Jerry Jones wants to be an idiot.
Oh,
Right. So I hit defense early. I hit it often. I took Roquan Smith early,
yeah,
Kyle Hamilton. I'm playing hero ball because I can at all these positions that are very impactful for this specific league, while the other guys are passing up. Let me quiz you here. This is going to be impossible, just so you know. If you look at last year, because we have the same scoring settings, if you look at last year's top 12 players, overall top 12 highest scoring players in this league, we'll take out quarterbacks. How many defensive guys were in the top 12?
8. I'm going to say 8.
Close. 6. Half of them were
50%.
defensive players. And all these jokers in this league are letting this defensive talent go on by. And I'm like, thank you, scooping them up, right? Jamar Chase, Jameer Gibbs, the third highest scoring player in our league last year, not counting quarterbacks again. Leonard Williams, Buda Baker was right behind him. It's crazy. Yes, I'll gobble up all this defensive talent. Thank you.
Yeah, that's I guess it is. I mean, fans, people want offense. I think that's a big tell there. There's no denying that. But I did it. I took a defensive player in round 4. I took a defensive player around 7. Took a defensive player. So 30 by the end of round 10, I had 3 defensive players. 70%. I will say this: I don't value defensive backs. I think defensive backs are interchangeable. And I will say this too: a good defensive back, a good cornerback, is not worth as much as a bad cornerback because a good cornerback doesn't get thrown to, so he doesn't accumulate points. A bad cornerback, a cornerback in offense will attack, gets tackles, gets past defenses because action comes his way. I remember when this league started, Darrelle Revis had very little value. Nobody threw to his side of the field. You don't get points for being a shutdown corner, right? You get points because for all the action you have to participate in. So that's an interesting, phenomenon there. But at the same time, right? Like, go back to what we were saying too. Like, then what's interesting is the value that comes, right? Like I look at you and I look at your draft, right? Guys like, and you got Dexter Lawrence, but forget about the defensive side of things. Like, where you drafted guys like Michael Pittman in round 20, right? I got Tyreek Hill in round, where is it? Round 8. I got Tyreek Hill. These veterans who are not dead yet. They're not dead yet, but in a dynasty format, they're treated as an afterthought. Now, maybe Tyreek Hill only gives me 2 years, but I'll take 2 years and I'll worry about replacing them in these rookie drafts, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you're going to find values in just about any draft that you do. But for me, like a guy like Michael Pittman, it's not sexy. He's not exciting.
Yeah.
But, if Puka Nacua, who I drafted, goes down and I need to find someone to fill in, yeah, I'll take a team's number one wide receiver that I got, like you said, in round 20.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was looking at him. I didn't want to draft him when I did because it's not exciting, because it's not sexy. However, when you're sitting there looking at, he was what, a top 15 wide receiver 2 years
2
ago?
years ago. Yep.
It's like, it is crazy the recency bias that the fantasy community has. We forget that Dak Prescott was he QB 4 or 5 2 years ago? He got hurt last year. That's it. Michael Pittman was a top 15 wide receiver 2 years ago. I know he's got a different quarterback. and all that stuff. But we're we just forget. It's like out of sight, out of mind. If it was 2 years ago, it never happened. And I don't want to, I don't want to forget good quality players that have produced in the past.
Now, I want to go back to a point you were making about the IDP, and I recommend it to people. Poke around an IDP league. Now, you need 10 to 12 really committed people to start up an IDP league, right? You can't have the casual fantasy football guy. It doesn't work. The casual guy is going to draft Lawrence Taylor, in the first round. You need committed people for IDP. There's no doubt about it. But I will mention one team here: Dish Adams, longtime fantasy contributor and whatnot. He knew the scoring settings. He knew the rules. In his first 5 rounds, he took 4 defensive players.
Yeah.
In his first 7 rounds, he took 5 defensive players. He started with who you mentioned, Leonard Williams, in round 1 at pick 7.
Which was crazy. That was
Right.
insane.
So it was a slow draft, and you heard everybody across the country gasp, right? You heard everybody, nobody lives near each other, and yet we all heard each other gasp when he took Leonard Williams. Round 2, he took Aiden Hutchinson. Then he took a quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He took the defensive tackle, Zeeler, in round 4. He took defensive end Van Ginkel in round 5. Then he's like, well, I guess I should take an offensive player. So who does he take? He takes the aging Alvin Kamara as running back 19. And then he takes Branch, safety, in round 7. And then, nope, another linebacker, Ellis, in round 8. He took Singleton in round 10. He had 3 offensive players. He had the exact opposite of me. 3 offensive players, 7 defensive players in the first 10 rounds. And then he started sprinkling in offense, really committing to offense later on. Now the question becomes, does he have enough offense to win? He has plenty of defense. His defense is going to carry him, right? Leonard Williams and Hutchinson can give him probably 50, 60 points a game in the scoring system. Is that too far the other way for you?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Look, I thought I was pretty ballsy going defense early, but this he took the cake for sure. I mean, he committed, and that was his draft strategy. He committed, so hats off to you. We'll see if it pays off. For me personally, again, I'm I don't mind diving into the defensive players in this league, but I can't go all in. I got to at least leave, 1 foot out of the water and scoop me up some offensive guys.
I'm going to ask you some of your favorites.
Yeah.
Dynasty quarterback. Let's talk quarterback position for a minute, and we'll bounce around a little bit. Okay. If somebody's starting their draft right now, forget about ours and forget about the IDP aspect, because that's a real almost niche community there in the fantasy world that plays IDP. When you look at the quarterback position, dynasty wise, and this is where you said earlier, it ties into the redraft. We've previewed the quarterback position for a redraft. We did that one of our first shows. When you look at the quarterback position for a dynasty, does it change much from your redraft rankings?
To be honest, actually, if I think about it, no. Because if you look at the redraft rankings, they're all younger guys, right? You got Josh
Allen
Allen,
Jackson, Ertz, Daniels,
Hurts.
Burrow, Bo Nix, you love.
Right, right. And then you dip into veterans a little bit. You got Patty Mahomes there at what, maybe QB 7, 8, 9, something like that. And then you get into a lot of the older guys. Um, your Staffords are going to be late in the teens. Same deal here. Actually, Stafford was probably the 30th quarterback off the board when I snagged him
Mm-hmm.
up. I mean, late, late, late. So no, when it comes to a quarterback position, it's for me, it's pretty similar dynasty and redraft. It, but the position is attacked the same in drafts where you don't have to go early. If you want to lock up a position forever and take Jaden Daniels in the third, fourth round, do your thing. Or you can take a strategy like I did and wait and wait and wait. Dak Prescott in the 15th round. I love that value. Redraft or dynasty.
Fair enough. What about the running back position? Now, the running back position, Um, Similar. I think a lot of people have Bijan number one. Some may have Saquon, Jameer Gibbs. Now we talked about it. Derrick Henry's value did plummet in the dynasty. Christian McCaffrey's dropped a little bit, no doubt about that. Ashton Genty was the first running back off the board. Now, he might not be the first running back. He might not end the season as RB1, but my thinking was long term, Ashton Genty in a dynasty. I put him up at number one in the dynasty. You could have made a case for Bijan being RB1 in a dynasty as well, but you saw Bijan go as the third running back off the board. You still saw Saquon go number two. So when you look at, and I'll say this, I think Amari and Hampton and at the time, Quinshon Judkins, where they went is still similar to where they're going, were going in redraft. Judkins has dropped off the table, no doubt about it. But Amari and Hampton is still going very high in redraft and went high in the dynasty draft as well. So comparing the two, is there anybody you have a running back much higher in a dynasty than you do in a redraft, or vice versa? Somebody you have very high in a redraft that you drop significantly in a dynasty?
Um, Not particularly because age for me, like I said, if I draft a running back in Dynasty, I'm only expecting to have them for, gosh, 2, 3 years. And if it goes more than that, I'm thankful for it. So, and a lot of the guys in redraft, it's the same as Dynasty. They're like the running back dead zone. I actually like a lot of guys in there. We've talked about Kenneth Walker a few times. I like the position DeAndre Swift is in. But they're in an age position. Now I will take the rookies, I will move them up a little bit. So like your Judkins before all this nonsense, Amari and Hampton, I will move them up a couple spots. And I'll move Henry down some. I'll move McCaffrey, Barkley down some, but it's not drastic,
Mm-hmm.
which is why at the beginning of the show I said, look, even if you don't play Dynasty, we have a lot of crossover here. The drafts are somewhat similar. And let me get your opinion on this. Would you say a dynasty draft is probably the most similar to a redraft league where you have three wide receivers and full PPR? Because for me, I think wide receivers have a little more value in a dynasty. They move up a little bit because
Say
of
less.
the longevity of their career. And when I look
Mm-hmm.
at a dynasty draft, a startup, and I look at a redraft league, if it's that three wide receiver starting PPR, they almost look very similar because your running backs go down just a tick. Your Genties may not, right?
Yeah.
They may keep their value because they're young and they catch passes, presumably. But the running backs go down a little bit, the wide receivers go up a little bit, but it's not crazy. Would you agree with that or disagree?
Yeah, I would. I just think wide receivers are the safer play.
Mm-hmm.
Less injury risk, although not always, but on paper, in theory, it's less injury risk. There's a longer shelf life. Um, and I think when the running back falls off the cliff, it's a more drastic fall off. Right. I remember LaDainian Tomlinson, and I remember it vividly. He was the clear RB1 for a couple of years in a row. And then when I had the first overall pick, I drafted him RB1, and that was the year he completely fell off. And he went to the Jets. He became a situational back and was still somewhat productive. But there was a time there, LaDainian Tomlinson was the greatest thing you ever saw in fantasy because he was a true three down back. Like I said, Derrick Henry, we joke about it, but the reality is Derrick Henry is the exception to the rule. I mean, that's just the reality of it all. Um, so yeah, I do agree with you on that. And I would say this, like, though, in like Dynasty, I have a little bit change in my rankings. Like it's to me, it's Ashton Genty, Bijan Robinson, Jameer Gibbs are my top three. Saquon's not there. Because even if agreeing with what you say, let's say a running back has a 5 year shelf life. Well, the reality is maybe you're hopeful you get two of those five out of Saquon. Whereas I think you'll get the full five from Genty. You'll get close to the full five from Bijan and Gibbs. And what the Detroit Lions have done, they've kind of protected Gibbs a bit with Montgomery. I think Bijan was protected a bit in year one and two with Tyler Algier. I think this year you kind of get more Bijan. You potentially get more from Gibbs. I don't think the Raiders are going to protect Ashton Genty. I just think they're going to say, "Go, run,
Who?
just run, kid."
Who will they protect? Who were they protecting with anyway?
Yeah, I mean, Amir Abdullah is not taking a 50% workload away from him. So so for me, as much as I love Derrick Henry, I get the point of him lasting to running back 15. Is he really giving you 5 years? Like, very doubtful. Even Josh Jacobs, who I took as my second running back, that to me was risky, and that's why I backed it up very quickly with a Quinshawn Junkins. But again, going back to that format, right? Remember, you only have to play 1 to 3 running backs, and you could play 2 to 5 wide receivers. So once I saw that running back room changing, I started gobbling up wide receivers, right? Drake London, Terry McLaurin, now dealing with the contract situation. He wants out of Washington. So I loaded up Juwan Jennings, Tyreek Hill. And the reality is there are going to be weeks I could literally play just 1 running back and 5 wide receivers and be just as comfortable there. Now, right. So what were you going to say?
Yeah, I had a similar deal. One of the most popular questions that people in the fantasy community get are, what are your draft strategies? What's your best draft strategy? And every
Depends on the
time I
draft.
say, well, right. But for me, I have the same answer no matter what. Stay water. You've got to stay water because you can have a strategy in your mind, and then Leonard Williams can go with the 7th overall pick, and you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So you got to stay water and flow with it. And so for me, in our draft specifically, there was some young running back talent that I consider falling. I got Chase Brown, I got Kenneth Walker later than I thought they'd be there. But by doing that and attacking defense, I sacrificed the wide receiver position. And I was okay with that because I'm going to take what comes to me. I'm not going to force, a wide receiver if there's better value in the running back position. So I kind of did the same thing you did, where I waited a little. I grabbed Puka early and then wait a little bit. So I know that my wide receiver position isn't my strongest one, but I also have a strategy now where I know that's a position I'm probably going to have to attack in future drafts,
Yeah.
in trades throughout the year. So,
But meanwhile, tight end position is a position I think you can almost ignore
yeah, sure.
because you started with Bowers, right? Like, that's
Mhm.
very real, very unlikely somebody comes along in a draft that makes you go, wow, I got to upgrade at tight end. Uh, you'll attack quarterback in the next couple of years. You'll attack wide receiver. But let me ask you this: you brought up wide receiver. Now I'm going to read to you the Roto-Baller rankings, top 10 wide receivers, redraft format. And the reality is, as I look at it, it's all young players, and I don't think it changes much in a dynasty. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Neighbors, Nico Collins. Now maybe you bump Neighbors up a bit,
I
but
would.
but you can make a case and say, okay, fine, I'm going to bump him up, but who am I bumping him up over? Like, the 5 ahead of him are studs, right? And young players who are not going anywhere anytime soon. Nico Collins, Brian Thomas. Same thing with Thomas. Bump him up, fine. Tell me who you want to drop, though. You want to put Thomas ahead of Nico Collins? Okay. Fine. I'm not going to argue that. Drake London, A.J. Brown, Lad McConkey. That's your top 11. The only true quote unquote older player in the top 12 is Tyreek Hill. And Devontae Adams sits at number 14. Those are your quote older players. They're 30 on the wrong side of 30. Other than that, the only other player, the only young player I can make a case, like you could say, well, Anthony, in a dynasty, I want Jackson Smith-Njigba. I want Garrett Wilson. I want Marvin Harrison. I want the Kansas City Chief young guys. I want Ted McMillan, the top wide receiver. I want what's his name? Travis Hunter, maybe, whatever it may be. And I say, fine, but who are you taking out of that top 10? Right? They're 26-year-old guys. These aren't old players. You want to take them before Tyreek Hill? Fine, I get it. You want to take them before Devontae Adams. But otherwise, you want to take them before Mike Evans? Fine, I get it. But now you're going into the top 20. That wide receiver room, there's not a lot of room for movement because most are young wide receivers with a ton of upside still.
Yeah, and that goes perfectly with that deep dive I did a couple episodes ago where I talked about if you look at the wide receiver ones, the top 12 guys at their position over the last 5 years, whenever we were wrong on a player, whenever we were too low in ADP, it was almost always a young player, or a young player that not just was young but had a change in their team, like Nico Collins. He got CJ Stroud, right? He was like that was his big change. But when we were wrong, it was almost always because of that young player. And it doesn't matter if it's redraft or dynasty. You want to hitch your wagon to young, talented wide receivers, and it's tough to go wrong when you do that.
Yeah. The oldest position, ranking wise, is the tight end position. That's where you see age, right? When you look at top 10 tight ends, like Travis Kelce is sitting in there, there's some age there. Mark Andrews is there, there's some age there. Kittle's on the wrong side of 30. Again, love him in a redraft. You want to avoid him there. So that Evan Ingram's been around a while. There's some age there. So maybe, if you said tight end is a position that you fade the veterans in a dynasty, a little more understandable. Now, you went Bowers, there's Trey McBride, Laporta's still young, Hawkinson's been around a bit. I think I started with Dalton Kincaid. I expect a little better year out of him. But then I grabbed a couple of other veterans. I think I got like Goddard from Philadelphia. I'll manage the position this year a little bit. But if you wanted to say in a dynasty league, I'm pulling Tyler Warren before Kelce, before Andrews. Makes a ton of sense. If you wanted to take Colston Loveland before all of those. Tight end is the one position when I look at these rankings and I could say my dynasty ranking and my redraft ranking looks significantly different, especially within the top 10, right? What do you think?
I agree 100%, because all those guys you mentioned in a dynasty, how many years do we have left of Kelce? How many years do we have left of Andrews, like you said? And for me, so the younger guys, definitely willing to move them up the rankings above those older fellas. And again, tight end is usually another one of those positions where in your rookie drafts they're going to fall. It's not fun. Nobody wants to take a tight end at 3 overall or 4 overall, even if your name is Brock Bowers. Nobody wants to do that because it's not, it's boring. But that could be what sets your team apart, gives your team that extra 6 points per game per week when you have Brock Bowers versus, good grief, I don't know, find some old guy down the list. So tight end for sure. I am definitely willing to move those younger guys up.
Okay. Now here's my final topic for today. Dynasty format. Now the fun thing about Dynasty is it's 12 months a year, right? You could trade at any moment, all season long. This league is set up, I believe, so we could trade up to 2 year ahead draft picks. Now, the rookie drafts in our league, because we draft defenses, is 6 rounds. I've seen other ones where it's offense only, you go 4 rounds, whatever it may be. So 2 years ahead. So we are in 2025. So it would be 2026 and 2027 rookie draft picks are movable. At what point, where do you need to be? Season starts, kickoff. Bobby Waugh the team is struggling, right?
Rude.
How patient are you to ride with the draft strategy you had and the team you drafted? Or how quick are you to make a move and unload veterans? Hypothetical, I'm in second place. Jared Goff, my veteran quarterback, knock on wood, he gets hurt. Drake May's not a week in, week out starter. I send the pick. I'll give you my 2026 third round pick for Dak. How quick are you into the season willing to say, I'm all in? Let me move some draft picks and fill some holes? Or the reverse, I'm out for this year. Let me move some of these older players and acquire more picks for next year.
I love this question because there's a lot of depth to the answer, I think, where there's so many moving parts. I'm not one to jump ship right away. I trust my process. I trust my data. I trust my eyes when I watch film on all these young guys coming out in the draft. So I'm not one to jump ship too early. I also do not want to be stuck in the middle rankings of a league. If you're in a dynasty team or if you're in dynasty league and you finish, there's 12 teams, you finish fifth, sixth, or seventh, I'm only going to give that 2 years. If that happens two
You're
years
in
in a row,
fantasy purgatory. That's not where you want to be. Let me
I'm willing to
party in
blow it up.
hell or be a saint in heaven. Don't leave me
Yeah,
in purgatory.
right. I would rather be terrible for a couple years and be able to build something back up. Now, if you're a playoff team, for me, even if I'm if even if I finish third, fourth, if I make the playoffs, because for me personally, anything can happen in the playoffs. So I need to be that playoff team. If I miss the playoffs twice, 2 years in a row, I'm willing to break it all down. Now, being that ours is just a startup and this is the first year, I'm not jumping ship. Even if I start out, you know,
Even with
0 and
your older
4.
players, like even with, like, and I brought up the quarterback position. You drafted two older quarterbacks. I come around and say, here's a second round pick for next year. You wouldn't give up Dak.
Well, I think the first time we did this, you said third round pick,
So
but
I just
now,
upped it. You
all
rejected
right.
it. And now I upped it to a second.
All right. So I'm 0 and 4. I'm 1 and 5. You offer me a second round pick for Dak. I'm probably going to do that. I'm probably going to
Okay.
do that. Because now, if it was another position, a younger wide receiver, a younger running back, I'm probably not going to do that.
You're not
Um,
going to trade young players, right? Like,
right.
that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
In that dynasty, I'm not trading, you know, even if I'm struggling, I'm not trading Genty. I'm not trading Drake London. But if I'm struggling, I'll give you Jared Goff. I'll trade you Josh Jacobs for a first round pick, right? Like I'll move
Yes.
that veteran. I'm not
Yes.
taking. So there's a difference there. Your core of those younger players, and by younger players, I'm not just saying rookies. I'm saying those guys 2, 3 years or less in the league, that 26 years old and younger. Those you hold on to. That's your core. Those veterans, right? The Derrick Henrys, the Josh Jacobs, whoever it may be. You give me the right draft pick, or you give me the right younger player. It doesn't have to be a pick. It's something we could talk about,
Yeah.
right?
And
Like
and the
I offer you Jackson Dart for Dak Prescott. Something at least to consider, isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah. And now for us to really dive into that, it's going to take a few years because if you look at the way I built my team, besides a quarterback position, I don't have a lot of veterans, at least not starters for my team, because that's not how I wanted to build. Like I said, I want to win now and later. But yes, I agree 100%. You got to dish, and that's tough. I mean, when you're sitting there and you have, like you said, a Josh Jacobs, and he's got the opportunity to score double-digit touchdowns, and he might be the best player on your team, but you're losing week after week after week.
Sell
It's like,
high. You'd rather sell high than wait till he's done.
listen, I agree 100%. But saying you're going to do it and actually clicking that button is
Yeah.
very, very different when you have a talented guy. And I think that being able to do that really separates the best dynasty players from guys who just kind of make it. You know what I mean? Just kind of do it.
I'm a big believer. I want that guy off my team before he retires.
Oh yeah,
I want him off my team
Mhm.
before he retires. I don't want his last year being on my team because I could have gotten something for him a year or two earlier. That's my belief.
I agree. That being said, if we want to play devil's advocate here, you could have traded Derrick Henry 4 years ago with that mindset. You know what I
I
mean?
did in another one. I did. I did. Now
Right.
I got a second round pick for him, and I think I used, if I remember correctly, I used that second round pick on HN.
Okay. Well, okay. That was all
So it
right.
worked. Trust me, I'd probably rather have Derrick Henry though than HN
Yeah, for sure.
because HN gets hurt. Derrick Henry hurts.
Yes.
So but that's what I did. I was like, I think it was, yeah, I think it was his last year in Baltimore. I'm like, this has got to be it. He's gonna have a good year, but this has got to be it. Second round pick. I moved him. And then Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry. I did get Achane, so it softens that blow a little bit, but nonetheless, right?
Yeah. So you asked that Dak Prescott question about trading him away, which kind of made my brain go a little bit of a different direction. You mentioned earlier in the show that I also have Joe Milton, Dak's backup, and I did that on purpose. I watched Milton's film coming out. I think he is a
I'm
one of
surprised he
those.
didn't get traded somewhere to compete as a starter.
I agree. Not only is he talented, he's got the athletic profile that he could, I mean, break fantasy if he gets the opportunity. Huge arm, big, athletic, got legs. So, and I did that on purpose because in a dynasty, I'm more prone to handcuff my players, be it running backs or um, quarterbacks, even. Because for me, if I get a good starter and I think the backup is also talented, I'm okay with doing that. Like I got Stafford, I'm not going to take Jimmy Garoppolo because I don't really know what that offense looks like with him.
I did that
But
with
I
the
had,
Giants. I drafted Russell Wilson, geez,
Mhm.
in the 20s as a third quarterback. And then I think I took Jackson Dart first, and then I went and grabbed Russell Wilson, right?
Right.
Like it was Russell Wilson's my third quarterback. Jackson Dart goes on a taxi squad for this year. I don't pay any attention to him. A couple of veterans, Drake May, Jackson Dart. I got some young quarterbacks as well for the future. So it makes sense if one of them is that aging veteran, right?
Right. Yes, correct. And I thought about it for the running backs as well. And there are a few in redraft I think you got to do, right? I think you get Walker, you got to go Charbonnet. You get Bajan, you got to go Algier. But like Derrick Henry, do you go Justice Hill? I think that offense
Keaton
changes.
Mitchell.
Right, so, right, right. But I wanted to get some data to back up, what I was saying. So I looked at Walker and Charbonnet and see if you drafted that backfield where you stood for the season. And I took Walker's scores from the weeks he started, because obviously you're going to start him if he started. I didn't, and I only used Charbonnet starts or his numbers from the weeks that he started. Right. So Walker was out weeks like 2, 3, 10 towards the end of the year. So if you take Walker starts and Charbonnet starts, you end up with a running back 7 on the season. So if you took that combo of running backs, that gave you the RB7, 200 and like almost 280 points. And I thought, okay, well they're both a little bit higher. Let's look at a more boring backfield, but a backfield where if the starter goes out, the backup is the guy, right?
San Francisco.
Um, right. So
McCaffrey,
that was a good
Randolph.
example. I did not break that one down, but that's a great example of what to look at. One I did was Washington. With Kingsbury, he likes having one running back. He'll use two occasionally, but boring backfield that you can easily get Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, right?
Right.
Um, so Brian Robinson, he missed like I think something like 4 games. He was RB 29, and Eckler was good grief, RB whatever. So if you would have had that backfield, again, this is more for dynasty than it is for redraft. But if you had that backfield, you end up with RB 19 because Eckler did well in those missed starts because Cliff Kingsbury wants to feed that one back. So if you can find backfields where that's a thing, for instance, Arizona, you asked me a month or more ago who would my Bucky Irving of this year would be, and I said Trey Benson given what the role I think he'll have if James Conner goes down. So if you can find those backfields where the offensive coordinator, the head coach, they want that one back. And if the lead back goes down, his backup, the second string guy, is capable enough to get you through those injury
And
weeks.
not only necessarily take over,
Mm-hmm.
but take over and never look back.
Sure.
Like to me, Arizona, Trey Benson
Mm-hmm.
could
Yes.
easily do that.
Yes.
It's not a matter of take over because we've seen it. It's the take over and never look back. That's what happened in New England with Ramondre Stevenson in year 2. And I'm drawing a blank on who the veteran was there in New England before him. But Ramondre took over, and that was it. He was off to the races. Bucky Irving did that last year. Rashad White was Bucky Irving took over, never looked back. No, I don't think that happens in San Francisco. Although what I think could easily happen is If McCaffrey gets hurt again, Garendo comes on, Garendo plays well. San Francisco may eventually make the move where we have a younger, cheaper replacement here, and we can just continue going with him. We can move out from McCaffrey. He's aging. He's a veteran. So when you could find the young guy, the next in line, even maybe with the Rams, right? Blake Corum, Jacquez Hunter, both drafted in the last 2 years. Now, Kyren Williams isn't aging, but Kyren Williams, as good as he is, also has his faults. One of those guys could take over for Kyren Williams if he's more explosive, because that's the critique on Kyren Williams is he's not as explosive as you would like necessarily. Could take over and maybe not look back. So, yeah, I love that idea of getting that younger running back and then maybe sitting him. Like Trey Benson to me is the best example because of the age of James Conner and everything else. And you know what, James? Your time has come and gone, my friend. Like, you got hurt. Trey Benson came, and he's gone for, 350 yards in the last 3 games with 4 touchdowns. I can't take him out of the lineup now. It could be very easily seen and done. Dallas with the rookie, right? Jaden Blue. He's not going to start week 1. It's probably going to be Javonte Williams. Maybe you'll see some Miles Sanders. Boring. They get hurt. Jaden Blue comes on. Jaden Blue doesn't look back, right? So it's Carolina. Same thing with Booton, right? With the other veterans that they have on that team. That's the part of Dynasty that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I agree. And it's for me, because I'm a guy that breaks down film and all that stuff, having a guy that like I'm a little higher on than anybody else, and I take him, a round or two early, and then it pans out. It's just an awesome feeling because Dynasty, you're the GM, you build your team. So if your team is great, you did that. If your team
Yeah.
sucks, you did that too. So, and that's like fix your process, right? Everything's a learning experience. You learn in your wins, you learn in your losses.
Yeah.
Right? So you get that, and
The
it's like,
thing is, with Dynasty, and as we start to wrap up here, because we've been talking for, I think, forever again. It's what we do. If you're going to do it, if you're going to start a Dynasty, even just offensive, and then even to another extreme, if you're going to do what you and I do with a Dynasty with individual defensive players, you have to make sure you get 10, 12, however many guys, girls, whatever. They have to be fully committed.
yes.
You can't do your normal, I refer to it now, you and I refer to it as the PBR league in the backyard. Odds are your Pabst Blue Ribbon League, 12 guys eating pizza, drinking beer, eating wings in the backyard. Odds are maybe half of those guys or girls are capable, attention span wise, interest level wise, able to do a Dynasty. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
You have to find people that want to play 12 months a year, want to understand the rookies, want to know the rookies, want to know the depth charts. Otherwise, it doesn't work. If you have dead weight in a Dynasty league, it causes the league to fall apart. Am I right?
Oh yeah, that's tough. And like one strategy that you can do in order to sort of curtail that is, let's say you're buying for your leagues $100. First year, $200 from everybody. And what that's going to do is either A, encourage the people to stick around because they're already paid for that following year. And each year you keep taking that 100. And that way, if
Like
they say,
renting an apartment, you take the first months
yeah,
up front, first 2 months up
exactly,
front.
right, lock them in. And then if they still decide, you know what, I don't really care about that extra $100. This is, I'm out of here. The first year for that next player is already paid for. The first year for the next person coming in to take over that team, it's easier to get someone to hop in there. That's
Yeah.
not ideal, but it is one way to try to keep the continuity of your league.
Final question of the day, and then it's time to enjoy our summer afternoon. One player, I'm putting it on you. I am literally lighting the fire under your feet.
Okay.
Give me one player, offensive side, Dynasty, that is off the radar right now that is going to be top fantasy players in the future.
All right. So off the okay, yeah, this is digging deep. So off
Yeah,
the
off the
radar
radar.
means
He
right.
probably might not even be drafted in a redraft this year.
Huh?
You follow, or a late redraft pick, who within the next 2 years we're talking about as a dynasty. I can't believe Bobby took him in round 32 of the dynasty draft, and here he is as a first or second or third round pick.
I can't believe that Bobby took him in round 24 would be the actual round I took him in, and I briefly brought him up. But for me, it's Jalen Noel, the second wide receiver that the Houston Texans drafted this past year behind Jaden Higgins. They took Jaden Higgins in the second. They took Jalen Noel in the third. Now, for me, he was wide receiver 64 off the board in our league. 64. Christian Kirk is the guy right now that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
the slot guy, right? And so Jalen Noel is nowhere. He's what, wide receiver four first team. You got Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk, right? Probably running back out there. Who knows how much I use Dalton Schultz? I mean, his value this season is low. Like it's 64. I mean, bottom of your bench type
He
of
won't
player.
get drafted in redrafts.
But for me, right, for me, if Tank Dell had size, he would be Jalen Noel. I mean, he's 5'10, almost 200 pounds, 40-inch vertical. I'm sorry, 41-inch vertical with a 4.39 40. The dude
As
did
men,
20.
we know every inch matters. Continue.
That's correct. 23 reps on the bench. He's fast, he's strong, and he's explosive. If you watch his tape from college, he's got big play potential. And why did we love Tank Dell? Because he had big play potential. He can play outside, he can play in the slot. Um, I this is one of those guys that I watch his film and I was okay on him. But then when I found out where he was going, this guy's going to be tied to CJ Stroud for probably a decade. That's that's better than being tied to Tua or Stafford, right? This guy's got a young, quality quarterback, and Christian Kirk was acquired for what, a seventh round pick. I mean, we might get to week 4 or 5, and they're like, "Man, this Kirk can't run. His wheels fell off. Let's see what Jalen O can do."
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
I
like it.
love it. I
I
love
like
I
it.
love not just him, but where he went.
Yeah.
Makes me really like him even more for Dynasty.
My guy's not as deep, but it's Scattaboo with the Giants now.
Hmm.
Redraft, he is being drafted because he's a
Yeah.
running back. Uh, I think you're looking at in the next year or two, uh, uh, a second or third round pick. I think he's going to phase Tyrone Tracy out very quickly. Uh, he doesn't have the explosiveness. Like I said, there's going to be more Scattaboo jerseys in Giant Stadium than any other player on that team. And I think he is going to be a 10 plus touchdown guy, and he's going to give you tremendous value. And if you drafted him in Dynasty, wherever you drafted him, probably on the outside of the top 10 rounds, his return is going to be worth it. Not as deep as yours, but he's somebody I do like quite a bit this
Yep.
year. Not as deep, but I do like him as well. So, all right, everybody. As always, Bobby and I appreciate you watching Clipboard Confessional. If you're getting ready to draft, go back, look at all our old shows. We've previewed all the positions: quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. We've talked some dynasty. So tons of great stuff. We'll keep coming with you all summer long. And then once the season starts, we'll do some weekly previews here on the show, getting you ready each and every week. Don't forget, you can follow me on X at @Aniano Fantasy. Bobby, how do they follow you on X if they want to hit you up
Arwal,
with questions?
yeah, Rwall 16, RWUGH 16. I'll be honest, man, I struggle with X. It just doesn't pop
So
in
do
my
I.
head. I do. I need to
So
do
do
better. I need to
I.
do
I
better.
struggle with it too. It's the lowest form of human life possible. Where if you
Dude, it
keep
is, man. It
it
is.
is.
You could say that football is great, and someone would find something negative to say.
Mhm.
It's wild.
It's the lowest form of life, but nonetheless, that's where we are. But what are you going to do? Bobby, this has been fun as always. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time right here, Clipboard Confessional.
You're the man. See ya.